All right, folks, it is Monday, August the 4th, 2025, and a lot's going on in the world and around the world. And of course, we'll be talking about that here on Pod TV. We'll see what folks have got to say about a number of these stories that are taking place, whether it's in Africa, whether it's in the Middle East, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in a number of other places as well, including right here in the United States. Hamas says it would allow aid for hostages if Israel halts airstrike and opens permanent humanitarian corridors. European leaders are condemning and sickening Hamas videos of Israeli hostages in Gaza, and Netanyahu has asked the Red Cross to help hostages in Gaza as families warn against an expanding war. And even Mike Huckabee says if Israel is committing genocide, it's really bad at it. And that's what Mike Huckabee's opinion was, and all along those lines. Ukrainian drone attack sparks fire at railway station in Volgograd region, Russia says. So definitely it looks like Ukraine and Russia are trading drone strikes. Ukrainian attack sparks blaze at the Russian oil debut as countries trade strikes and all along those lines. So definitely that is something that folks are talking about as well. And fresh clashes break out in Syria as the interim government struggles to ease tensions. Tensions high as new violence spirals in Syria's Sawada despite the ceasefire, and the renewed clashes in Syria's Druze majority Swadia killed four people, monitors say, in that place, and all along those lines. South Korea begins removing border propaganda speakers in consolidatory gesture toward the north. So definitely South Korea removes the speakers that had been used to blast K-pop music and propaganda across North Korea border. So definitely looks like they're removing that, and that form of kind of terrorist attack will be stopping, and all along those lines, at least in that region, at least for now. Denmark zoos are asking the public to donate unwanted small pets or horses to feed their captive predators. So that is something that's going on in Denmark. And more than 60 migrants are dead after a boat capsized off the coast of Yemen. So migrant boats capsized off Yemen, killing more than 60. And that is something that folks are talking about as well. That is something that took place on the African continent. China is pushing back at the U.S. demands to stop buying Russian and Iranian oil. U.S. China talks hit an energy roadblock. Beijing defies pressure to halt Russian Iranian oil imports amid the talks that are going on. And it looks like China is standing firm against U.S. demand that it stops buying oil from Russia and Iran. And it looks like the world is in a $1.5 trillion plastic crisis, and that is hitting the health from everybody from infancy to old age, a report warns. So, plastic crisis highlighted by Lancet ahead of the Global Plastic Treaty. So, there is a treaty to cut plastic pollution that is set for yet another round of debates. And home by home, it looks like Russia is selling occupied Ukraine to Russians. And Israel forces kill at least 27 at food sites while Minister Al Aqsi visits causes outrage. So more Gazians die seeking aid and from hunger as burial shrouds are in short supply. So there are burial shrouds that are in short supply in that area. And a New Zealand woman was arrested after a 2-year-old girl was found alive in a suitcase stowed in her bus luggage, or stowed in the bus luggage, I should say. So, a woman charged after a toddler is found in a suitcase in New Zealand's bus luggage compartment. So, that is definitely something that is sad news that was coming out of New Zealand. And as far as the Trump tariffs, early modeling shows most economies lose, and it looks like there might be some economic warning signs amid the Trump tariff blitz and everything like that. And after a lag, consumers are already beginning to feel the pinch of the tariffs. As a matter of fact, I was watching a news show on another network, and they were talking about the toy market that was just recently held, and all the different toys, including a fly in, fly, and all along those lines, and some slimy stuff, and all in that space. But one of the toy experts was saying that the tariffs are definitely hitting even the toy market because a lot of the toys are made in other countries. So they were saying that they are starting to feel the pinch and will feel it even more as we get closer and closer to the holiday season. And of course, these were some new toys that we're going to be out there as we get into the holiday season in October, November, and December, and all along those lines, even going into early January. But they were fearful that the tariff war could cause even that industry's prices to go up. And Pope Leo tells 1 million Catholic youth they are sign a different world is possible. Faith flags and deep dish pizza. Pope Leo shows general Gen Z appeal as a million young people turn out in Rome. And apparently he brought the youth jubilee to a close with a mass to the more than a million that were there in that area. And India and the Philippines staged joint naval drill in the disputed South China Sea. India and the Philippines to launch the first joint maritime drills in South China Sea and all along those lines. And southern Taiwan, lashed by torrential rain, 4 are dead, more than 5,900 evacuated. And 80 years after the Hiroshima bomber, art needs courage to be afraid, and photos of searchers seeking victims of a Hiroshima bombing 80 years later on a nearby island is something that the AP News was reporting on as well. And even the Washington Post was saying 80 years since Hiroshima, how much can the world's luck hold? And looks like definitely Bruce Pearl is facing serious backlash for his divisive Barack Obama claim and all along those lines. So definitely that's something that's in the news as well. His comment and the world's reactions to it as well. And Sydney Harbor Bridge, tens of thousands turned out for a pro-Palestine march. Tens of thousands joined anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian march over the Sydney Harbor Bridge over there in the Australian area, if I remember that correctly. And definitely Sydney's huge Gaza protest shows there's now no stopping the tide of public opinion. So definitely that's something that folks are talking about as well. And no piecemeal deal. Witkoff tells Helston's families Trump wants full Gaza agreement. U.S. officials on rare visit to controversial Gaza aid distribution site and all along those lines. So definitely that is something that is going on. And China and Russia have begun a joint military drill in the Sea of Japan. So Russia and Chinese navies carry out artillery anti-submarine drills in the particular war games that they're doing and all along those lines. So definitely that is something that's going on as well. And Hong Kong cancels passports and bans financial support for 16 overseas activists. So that is definitely something that people are talking about as well. And as the Helsinki Accord turns 50, Russia has broken all 10 core principles. So the Helsinki Accord was a masterpiece of European diplomacy. 50 years on, we needed spirit more than ever, is what the Guardian says. And treaty betrayed. U.S. Senate decries Russia's violation of the Helsinki Final Act. So definitely that's something folks are talking about as well. And Limpopo pig farmers, a South American farm worker, says he was forced to feed women to pigs. So that is definitely something that is going on as well and all along those lines. So that's coming out of South Africa and all in that kind of way. And Texas Democrats leave state to prevent a vote on redrawing congressional map. And Texas Democrats decamped Illinois to deny Republicans a quorum on redistricting, but Democrats flee Texas to block Republican redistricting map backed by Trump. And apparently the governor of that area, Abbott, is threatening Democrats. So we'll see how this all plays out as well. And Republican Representative Nancy Mace launches a campaign for South Carolina governor. So Representative Nancy Mace, a Trump critic turned ally, will be running for the South Carolina governorship and all in that space. So she says she's definitely leaning towards running for the South Carolina governor next year. So it looks like she's already now saying that she's definitely going to do that. And manhunt for Montana bar shooting suspect continues into the fourth day. Montana City on lockdown after gunman kills 4. Former U.S. soldier is suspected in the Montana bar shooting that killed 4 and is prompting this manhunt. So definitely that's something that people are talking about as well. And 12 years after bankruptcy, a changed Detroit is picking a mayor. So definitely 2 Detroit mayoral candidates advanced on Tuesday. So we'll see which way they go and who becomes the mayor of Detroit. And there's even an article in NBC News about how the Chi Alpha College Ministry failed to stop a sex offender from abusing students in Texas. And pro-Israel Democrats are trying breaking with Netanyahu to stop the party's shift amid the Gaza crisis. 32% in the U.S. backed the Israelis' military action in Gaza, and that is a new low. So definitely that's something else that we're seeing as well. And former football coach Derek Dooley is entering the Georgia Senate race. NRSC Chair Senator Scott reveals how many GOP Senate seats he is gunning for during the 2026 midterm. So definitely the 2020, we'll see how this goes and how it weighs in the favor of either the Democrats or the Republicans. And Trump says the Bureau of Labor Statistics orchestrated a scam. Trump's rewriting the reality on job numbers is chilling, but it could backfire, according to the CNN. And Christie knocks Trump for firing the jobs data chief. Petulant child is what the quote was, and all along those lines. And I think that even Schumer had some harsh words for Trump as well. And India's IOC buys $7 million, by 7 million barrels of U.S. Mideast crude after Russia oil pause. So Trump's penalty threat puts India in a bind over Russian oil, and then they turned around and bought some of ours. Canada wildfire causes the poor air quality in the Midwest and Northeast U.S. So that's definitely something that people are talking about. And it definitely looks like even the New York City air quality drops as smoke from Canadian fires swirls south. So that's definitely something that folks are talking about. And as tsunami waves swept the Pacific, some in Asia saw signs of a manga prophecy come true. So definitely we'll see how this plays out as well. And California's Gifford fire surges to nearly 40,000 acres, closing highways and evacuation order expanded. So the Gifford fire burns nearly 50,000 acres in California's Los Padres forest. So definitely that's something going on. As I said, I know Schumer made the analogy of a football player or a kid taking the football with them and everything. And apparently Trump, who was irate, told Schumer to go to hell after the Senate standoff over confirmation. So senators leave Washington without the Trump nominee deal, and we'll see how this goes on and all along those lines. So like I said, a lot of stuff going on in terms of our local politics and also the politics on the national scene as well. And by the way, a whale died after a collision with a small boat off of a New Jersey shore. So the whale dead and passengers thrown overboard after the boat collision in Barnegat Bay, New Jersey. So definitely that's something that folks are talking about, just like they're talking about the Tennessee quadruple murder case that has sinister overtones, according to a former FBI official. So 2 arrests have been made in connection to the Tennessee quadruple murder suspect who allegedly abandoned a 7-month-old baby, in addition to being a murder suspect as well. So, and apparently Tropical Storm Dexter is heading away from the U.S., but there are 2 others that we have to watch. So it looks like Tropical Storm Dexter is forming off the East Coast in the Atlantic Ocean, but it's not heading toward the Carolinas or Florida. It looks like it's moving out of the sea and maybe over toward Europe or something along those lines. But we've got all kinds of folks with me, so I'm going to bring them in, see what they've got going on in their world. We've got Rick Rosner, we've got Sasha Starr, we've got Dr. Sharif, and I think I saw John, but he's off camera, so I'll see if he comes on camera at some point.
I don't know if you mentioned this, but Charlemagne the God went on I think a Fox News show and enumerated the symptoms of dementia and then checked Trump having every one of them, which...
And I understand that Trump got mad at him and even said that how dare he use God in his name or something like that. So yeah, I understand that they've been going
and the trouble with Trump was the trouble with my mother-in-law, that my mother-in-law, even before she had dementia, said a lot of nonsense. So it's hard to tell whether it was the dementia talking or whether it was just my mother-in-law being my mother-in-law. Ditto with Trump. Trump has said so much nonsense over so many decades that you can't tell whether he's losing it or not.
That's very true and everything. Dr. Sharif, what's going on in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, there are some interesting improvement happening in Bangladesh and in South Asia. Recently, we just finished a summit on Podda, right? You know that Podda has a very big impact in Bangladesh. Himalaya has a very big impact in South Asia. Also, this Ganga has a very big impact in India. So it's a very regional issues, and some of the scholar always said that the next world war go for water. So water diplomacy playing a major role, and my World Talent Economic Forum, we are trying to save my grassroots level people, especially my agricultural peoples, my industrial peoples, my regular peoples, and in Bangladesh, in that region, around 100 million people they live. The same way India has their Ganga barrage, you can see that this Ganga barrage and all of the things, it create a massive problem for Bangladesh, massive problem for even inside India. I know that there is you have your president Donald Trump. He do not like climate change oriented things, but it has a major impact in South Asia, in Bangladesh, in India, in the Maldives, and around the world. We are heavily affected by this climate change. We have flood-related problems. We have diplomacy-related problem, agricultural problem. World largest mangrove in Bangladesh and in India. We have problems. So with my World Talent Economic Forum, I'm trying to engage with India, with Bangladesh, with all of the countries, those who have a negative impact on climate change. Definitely, USA has big companies. USA have big impact investors, and all of the peoples. You can support our initiatives. So things is that it can create a win-win situation. I believe the big countries they should not invest in war. On the other hand, they can invest in climate change, they can invest in emerging economy, they can engage with much more people. And through this process, they can get real success in terms of business, in terms of humanity. So I request all of my friends through Pod TV, please, please, please join in our ecosystems and engage with all of our initiative. Hopefully, through this process, you can get a real experience how to change human lives, real experience how the emerging economy work, real experience how your uh, big countries, definitely Canada and USA is a very big country, your big country can contribute, small country, very small place, but maybe it's better than Nobel Prize winning. Thank you.
No problem. What's going on in your world, Sasha? I know that you've been following, and of course, we'll have the show on Tuesday. What's going on in Ukraine? I was one of the stories I mentioned was that apparently the Russians are selling the property of the land that they've got in the occupied territory to Russians and everything like that. So, but what other things are you hearing about in that conflict and the other conflicts as well?
You're right. We will comment a lot on Ukrainian situation tomorrow during the Ukrainian show at 11 o'clock. We will do exactly that. In the meantime, a few things about Canada and so-called negotiations with the United States. Essentially, Canada's position is that it doesn't matter whether you have no tariffs on Canadian goods, 10%, 20%, 30%, 50%. It doesn't matter because Canadian producers, they are supplying certain products, certain produce. And that's after tariffs, it's US importers and most likely US people, US taxpayers, they will have to foot the bill, whether it's 35% or any other number. Therefore, Canadians' position is there is nothing to negotiate. I mean, if you want to impose 35% tariffs, please do. You want to impose 50% tariffs, please do. There is nothing we can negotiate. We are not interested to negotiate it because it doesn't affect us. What's the difference? Whatever US taxpayers are going to pay 35% extra on Canadian produced goods or 50% or whatever. Number one, it's not our business. It's a business of UX taxpayers. If they want to pay this new so-called tax to subsidize a rich part of the population of US. It's their business. It's not Canadian business. Canadian business is very simple. There are orders, we are going to produce. The only difference is that this time Canadians are working very hard to create substantial amount or increase amount of European, Asian orders. So in fact, they already making certain things what US needs impossible to obtain: electricity, water. They Canadians are taking a stance that no, we are not going to supply you only in amounts that we will find possible, not whatever you need. So I don't see how Canada will suffer under this policy, but US will suffer quite a bit.
Yep, that makes sense and everything. Jacoby, what's going on in your world as well as John? But I'll start with you, Jacoby. So what's going on in your world? What are you hearing in the news that you want to talk about?
I mean, there's tons of stuff that's happening. I mean, a whole bunch of stuff. But you know, hey, from you know, the space exploration now, how one scientist theorized that the comet that's racing through space right now, one scientist, and even in his article or in his theories about it, he wrote that, yeah, this is just a theory. This isn't, you know, something I know. But everybody flipped out. And, but there's that one comet that's out there that's an interstellar comet, and he had theorized that because of its size, the fact that it's as big as New York City, if I remember, they're saying he was theorizing that it would be interesting if it were a alien spaceship headed towards Earth, which, you know, people ran with that, and now everybody's saying that scientists, no, one guy theorized, but that's just how people get clicks these days. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah, that is kind of funny and everything.
Rick, did you see that about that article though?
I did not see that article. I would check that one out. I did not get that one. So they're theorizing that we got a spaceship coming our way.
Yeah, but like I said, there's lots of stuff in the news, but that, you know, I'm keeping it lighthearted.
Yeah, if you do the math, if you do any kind of rational analysis of space aliens coming to visit us, it's super duper unlikely.
I mean,
it's just,
it's like I don't understand why people. Well, I mean, I guess it's hard. I mean, the math on how big space actually is, I guess, is mind-boggling. Just to think, like, the interstellar space travel is never really going to happen in our lifetime unless we figure out some way to do some form of time travel. Space travel is never, interstellar space travel is never going to happen.
Yeah, the only way to do it is alien style, where you put the astronauts to sleep, or you do automated systems. You don't even use people. You know, the closest star to us is 4 light years away. Even at moving at 10% of the speed of light, which we can't do yet. Even if it would take 40 years to get to the closest star. And if you run into anything and you're moving 1/10 the speed of light, you get blown up, you know, by even like dust particles.
Yeah. And Voyager 1 has been traveling for, 47 years, and has just only made 1 light day. So
it's one light day. Hey, Jacoby, this is for you too, Rick, and everything. Like I said, I was watching the one of the other networks, and they were talking about the toy conference that just recently took place, and some of the toys were the old throwbacks. I think I saw the Energizer Bunny as a toy and everything, and of course slimy toys, like where kids can play with slime and all along those lines. But one of the toys made no sense to me. Why would a kid want a drone fly? Because it was literally a fly that you could fly around the building. It looked like a very big, giant fly, not like the kind of flies that you find around residents and businesses.
What kid wouldn't want that? A
yeah,
giant
I want one.
Yeah. I mean, you could make drones in all sorts of shapes. If
Yeah,
I were, if I were 10 years old again, I'd want a drone in the shape of a naked lady.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah, I could see that maybe, but I was just trying to figure out, as a parent, to tell me if one of your two kids had a drone fly, they would fly it around. Would that just like torture you and your wife? It's bad enough
Yeah.
when a real flag goes out there.
I mean, that's what kids do.
Kids love that. There used to be garbage pail kid stickers, which were disgusting stickers that were gross. And so, like a giant, nothing's grosser than a giant fly. A kid would love that.
Yep, the kid would probably definitely love it way too much and everything like that. Hey, John, I see that you're walking around. You're not outside today. Looks like you're walking around your house and everything. So what's your take on what's going on with the Canadian tariffs? We heard from Sasha, but what's your take on it?
Yeah, so actually I am outside. I went for a walk, and there's a school nearby. Today is a holiday, so usually here they have camp for kids, but not today. So I'm still sitting in front of their school. They have a nice bench. Their quality kind of sucks again today, so I'm not going to be out here very long. I'm going to go back inside. Yeah, I pretty much agree with Sasha. The nice thing is that all the provincial premiers and Carney are united in their stance against any idea of negotiating or with Trump. It's a waste of time. He's a bully. We're just gonna do what we need to do and pull away from the States, like Sasha said, to Europe, Japan, China, and find other economic nations that we can trade with. It's not going to impact, the population here. It's going to impact businesses, but we see it as an opportunity. Absolutely.
It makes sense. Speaking of pulling away, apparently the Texas Democrats pulled away to Illinois in order to stop redistricting, and now Abbott is threatening to, I guess, deport them and keep them over in Illinois or along those lines. But how can you even manage to do that legally or constitutionally and everything like that? So what is our take on this notion? Because, well, one, they did not want the redistricting because it seemed like it was unfair and all along those lines. So they decided to selectively remove themselves from the vote and everything like that. So what's your take?
Let's do the math. So Texas has 38 congressional districts.
Right.
42.7% of the vote went for Harris, or about 3 votes out of 7. But right now, the Democrats have 12 out of 38 seats, which is less than 1/3. Trump and the governor want to take away 5 of those seats and knock it down to 7 out of 38, which is less than 20%, which is less than half of the number of seats the Democrats should have based on the popular vote. And so, yeah, that's why they are leaving the legislature, so the legislature doesn't have a quorum, so they can't vote in this new bullshit.
Yep.
Now, I don't know how long they have to stay away from the legislature to stop the redistricting before the election, which is still 15 months away. Texas Democrats have run away before to stop ridiculous legislation. Abbott is threatening to remove them all from office. So we'll see what, it's going to go on for a while.
I do have a question on the electoral college and that system of, again, as a Canadian, it makes absolutely no sense because that introduces a possibility, which has happened many times in your elections, where the person who wins any given an election, it doesn't have most of the votes. To me, it's not very democratic, And
So, I mean,
I don't know if other countries do this way of.
It goes back to the very beginning of the country, where in order to have a union, to have a constitution back in 1789, you had to throw a bunch of treats to the smaller states to get them to go along because they were afraid of being dominated by the bigger states. And unfortunately, a lot of these smaller states back then were slave states. And
I understand all the history. Don't get me wrong. I understand the reason why it happened, but I would think we're now in 2025. That system is inadequate. It doesn't, really represent the will of the people. You guys should get rid of it. I mean, again,
yeah,
and I know politically it's hard, but it doesn't make sense.
Shouldn't coming the rich people have captured a lot of the legislative processes here, and if we ever could do something like that, now would not be the time that we could pull it off. I mean, you have the result. I think about 2/3 of the states don't like the Electoral College, but translating that into legislative action is tough. And if you manage, David Walker, who does the economics show, The Next Hour,
Right.
talks about having a constitutional convention to redo the Constitution because it's 240 years old, that thing. But the danger is that you don't necessarily get reasonable amendments to the Constitution if you let that happen, because you've got lunatics wanting their own stuff. And so we don't get utopia if we try to legislate this stuff out of existence.
Yeah, and therefore that's why I keep kind of shaking my, so reason and rationality for you guys is difficult, I guess.
Yeah, 20% of American voting age adults have broken brains and believe a lot of bullshit, and it hampers our political system.
Yeah, and it hurts other countries.
Yeah,
If I was living far away from you guys, I couldn't care less. But I'm motivated. I have an interest in finding out what you guys do because it can impact us, and it's just sad. I guess I'm a little more optimistic at one point because just use a little bit of imagination. I would hope some groups of people get together and start really being
realistically. Our political problems are going to go away in 10, 20, 30 years anyway, because AI is gonna and the people who control AI will increasingly manipulate our thinking and stuff. And regardless of whether we have a well-functioning democracy, it's going to be turned over to beings who can think better than us. They can't do it now, but by 2050, good luck, everybody.
Yep, that's definitely something that folks will be talking about and everything like that. I did have a question for Sasha and John, but before I get to that question, just really quickly, because we had an incident here in North Carolina, and it looks like there was one in Miami, and so we know that this is the heat of hurricane season and the heat of summer as well and everything, and in that, a lot of people are going boating, and there have been a number of very sad boat collisions, including the one where I think here in North Carolina, a 10-year-old was killed by a boater that was drunk and everything. So definitely just everybody, if you're going out boating, and it's not something that's one of my hobbies, definitely follow the safety rules so we don't have these kind of accidents and everything like that. So definitely that is a tragedy both in Miami and in this area as well and everything. So definitely follow the safety protocols if you're going out boating or out camping even as well. But definitely follow those safety protocols. And I just want to remind people to do that. And all along those lines, call that a PSA announcement and everything like that. But one of the things I'm curious about, John and Sasha, just in terms of Canada, is what is the reason for the air quality being so bad in parts of Canada? Because it does seem like it's impacting parts of the U.S. as well. And I don't know enough about the industries of Canada to know why the air quality has been so bad now for a couple of years.
The fires
The fires, that's what it's been calling the poor.
in the west and a little bit north.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, climate change.
Climate change and the fires, that's what it is. That makes sense. So that's what I was trying to figure out, because I didn't think y'all had a lot of heavy polluting industries from what I recalled and everything like
Yeah,
that.
and the wind kind of blows it our way right now.
So the winds are blowing in northern versus southern and everything like that. Well, we've been talking about tariffs, and that's been a big issue. And I know that both you and Sasha and others have been talking about it. But it looks like China is welcoming 183 Brazil coffee sellers in the wake of the U.S. tariffs. So I guess China's going to try to get some of this Brazilian coffee that we might not be getting. And I know there's a lot of coffee drinkers. I've got family members that are coffee drinkers. I'm not much of a coffee drinker, even though I might drink it on occasion. But apparently the tariffs on Brazil is 50%. And that's what Trump hit Brazilian products with over Bolsonaro and everything like that. Because Bolsonaro, I think, was one of his allies and everything like that. But Lulu says that they're open to U.S. trade talks if treated as an equal. So what's our thoughts about maybe Brazil and some of these other countries going toward China and other people to send some of their goods over there, since apparently we're charging too much tariffs? Anybody?
I think that if it wouldn't be a war in Ukraine, European Union would not negotiate any trade deal with US. It would go into coalition with Canada, China, Brazil, Japan, South Korea, and many other countries. They would create an economic bloc which would completely isolate United States from all the world trade, period. Now, because of the war of Ukraine, and there is a need for US-produced weapons, so therefore European unions agreed to a deal. And what kind of a deal is that? It's a absolutely fantastic deal where US imposes 15% of all production of European Union. European Union imposes in return zero tariffs on all US products. Now, according to this agreement, European Union will buy in next 3 years $750 billion worth of energy from United States. This is unheard of because European Union, it's well known, requires only about 100, maybe 120 billion dollars worth of energy. So this is absolutely lunatic agreement. Another one is that European Union will invest $650 billion worth of manufacturing or some other project on US territory. European Union is not capable to make such agreement because European Union has no money to invest, period. It's a European companies which may or may not invest in US products or projects. So therefore, it's a long shot before the United States will see any money out of it, or energy cell, and all this 15%. That's something real, but all what it means that U.S. Importers and taxpayers will foot this 15% tariffs. There is no cost for Europeans at all, because their wonderful products, anywhere from cars to machinery to just clothing, anything, there is a huge demand around the world on these products. So U.S. may order this products or may not. It doesn't matter. That's it.
Almost half of Americans believe that the tariffs are being paid by foreign from other countries rather than being footed by, like Sasha says, by American taxpayers.
Some
Again, this message has to be drilled and repeated because there's still GOP politicians that put out this crap.
there
Well,
are some people in the media who are now pushing for us to quit talking about tariffs, because that's not exactly what those things are, and start talking about a consumption tax on foreign goods used by U.S. consumers. It's a consumption. It's a tax on U.S. People who buy stuff. If you
Yeah.
buy stuff from other countries, you're going to get taxed.
Well, honestly, it's not if you buy. Basically, we've got to put it in layman's terms. And I mean, yes, a consumption tax and all this other stuff. Consumption tax, we should make sure people understand it hits lower income individuals more so than it hits higher income individuals. The tariffs are doing exactly that. The stuff that we normally buy that we don't even think about, Parmesan cheese, that's normal stuff that you're going to buy for your regular pizzas. And where's that coming from? Not in the US. So you have wines, you have beers, you have all this other stuff. The aluminum they make with the cans, the cars themselves.
Yeah,
all
if you an F-150 pickup truck, Ford F-150, nothing, no vehicle is more American than that, except what, 20% of the parts come from Canada?
Yeah, and also the actual making of the truck goes across the country line. So you've got going to Canada, going to Mexico. So you have all this stuff. Yes, it's attacking lower income families more so than anything.
Jacobian, right, as you know, there's messaging from the GOP, even today, today, that these tariffs are being paid by countries. And I'm sorry, there has to be messaging that's saying, these MAGA idiots still believe that crap.
Well, I want to add in the messaging for you too here, John, because the other messaging that comes into play, Sasha, you pointed out these quote unquote deals. The deals, heck, I can give you a sheet of paper and say deal on it, and we'll agree to what we may do. But there's nothing in these deals if you actually look at what's there. It's a handshake agreement on something that they may do. And then these quote unquote investments, these billion-dollar investments, there has yet to be one investment. Not one has come in. And then if you look at his past presidency, when he was there in 2016, when he talked about we're going to make this giant investment into Michigan and into these areas, and you know what came about from those investments that they announced, that $300 million investment? Nothing. So all these investments are nothing. There are no guarantees, no promises, nothing. It's just a sheet of paper and a handshake.
So
I think, just a sec, I think that all this idea with tariffs and its implementation is a giant scam, because there is no emergency situation where president would have to impose tariffs on one or the other nations. If there is no emergency, it's a Congress has to do these tariffs or not to do them, but not the president. So that's number one. Number two, the idea is to bring jobs in America. Okay, this is very, very important issue. What jobs? Where jobs? Come on, this is all cheap talk. However, let me give you an example. So let's say you impose 50% tariffs on Brazilian coffee because you want to protect U.S. workers. So you imply that U.S. workers in U.S. will be producing coffee. This is ludicrous. This is absolutely fantastic situation, because no coffee can be produced in the United States, and it doesn't matter how many workers you will employ producing coffee. It's same thing with avocado, same thing almost with anything. Okay.
So
Yeah,
the one way. So the tariffs are at least temporarily a test of corporate goodwill. So, like certain car manufacturers are saying our prices are not going up because of the tariffs. Is saying that the tariffs increase, say, the cost of making a car, cut into the profit margin by 3%. So they're saying right now we're not going to pass on that 3%, but that won't last forever. If these tariffs go on for a while, the manufacturers who are sucking it up a little bit, trying to keep their businesses stable and move product, they will eventually have to pass on the price increases.
Wait a sec, Rick. You touched on something very important. So if there is a, let's see, 15% tariff, so there are two ways to absorb this 15% tariff. One that consumers will pay and absorb the hit. Another one is importers who bring, or car manufacturers for bringing the foreign produced parts, for example, and would have to pay 15% tariffs. So somebody has to eat it. Okay, let's say in first thing, consumers will have to eat it. So that means inflation, because for the same thing they have to pay 15% more money. That's inflation. Now, if U.S. importers will eat it, or producers, car producers, whoever, then if they eat it or even part of it, they deprive their shareholders of their profits because they have to subsidize Trump's imposed tax or the tariff. So you can call it any way, it doesn't change anything. So either U.S. consumers, now, in order for a car company or some other importers to deal with this 15% tax, most likely they will have to reduce their workforce. So that will put more people on unemployment line. So, okay, so you deal with inflation effect. You say, no. You car producers, you are rich. You have to eat this 15% tax. And I know, for instance, when first tax talk was about some food products, and I think Target or Walmart, they wanted to raise prices, and Trump was he was going nuts. He was screaming, and Walmart and other executives, "How dare you are! I'm gonna kill you!" And so, because it was only 2 or 3 people involved, so it was kind of unnoticed. And okay, well, we'll figure out what to do. Okay, now it's a time to figure out. Now it's a time to decide either you eat it and increase the inflation, and each U.S. family will be hit with $1,000 to $2,000 bills to cover this 15% tax or whatever, or you will put people on unemployment lines, and that's now you can choose what you like better.
Now, Sasha, this is the craziest part, though, with these quote unquote deals, because, the U.S. is getting hit. So the European deal or the EU deal, the U.S. is getting everything coming out of the EU is what, 20% or whatever. But things going into EU are getting no tariff. So think about that. So now the American citizen is paying more for American products than the European citizen, and the European. So that is like backwards thinking, and think about how he's trying to with pharmaceuticals. Oh, he's going to bring down prices of pharmaceuticals. The way he keeps talking about, he's going to bring down pharmaceuticals by 1,500 and 1,000% and all this other dumb stuff, which first off is idiotic, because that means if you go past 1,000% or you go past 100%, you're paying me to buy your drugs. So that's crazy. But then to think about it, number two, what he's trying to do is get the EU to raise its drug prices, and we don't get a change in ours. So that is just dumb thinking. As they said at the Daily Show, which they brought this up, which I thought was really well done, and they described it, it is crackhead logic. It makes no sense in terms of bringing down the prices for anything in the US. It is raising prices here, but giving everybody else a discount. But what people hear is, oh, 1,500%. That's lower than what we have now on pharmaceutical prices. No, idiot, it is not. Oh, well, there are $500 million deals that are coming into the US. No, idiot, there has not been one deal to come into the US.
You got a video that you want to show, Toby?
Yeah, I did have a video that I think people would enjoy.
Wait,
Yeah,
let me
I watched that.
before
So,
the
obviously-
video. Let me. One interesting thing is, if you're an investor like Sasha, you know that at least once a year, the CEO has to get on the phone with shareholders and explain what's going on with the company. So I'm looking forward to hearing a bunch of CFOs, CEOs talk about how they're going to address, like if the tariffs making a truck cost $1,400 more, then what they're going to do about it, and take questions from shareholders.
Actually, that's, I think, an easy one. All they have to do is to remind shareholders that they live in a country by the name United States of America, and that country has a president by the name Donald Trump, and hey, through this so-called tariffs or taxes, you can call it anyway. It's actually, it's more taxes in my opinion. It works more like taxes than anything else. So, I mean, all they have to say is all questions direct to Donald Trump. Thank you, guys and boys and dolls and so on.
Hey, can we see the cartoon that Jatobi has?
Well,
yeah, hold on. Before
actually,
you show it, obviously at least a third of Americans are sucked at math, well, plus Trump. Like you said, and this video probably will show that he's going to lower prices 1,500%, 1,600%. Might as well be $1 billion, because he doesn't know how math works, as Jatobi. And obviously, the idiots that believe him are not mathematical, or didn't take a damn course in friggin' algebra.
Yeah. The video, Jatobi?
Oh, so basically this circles back to AI, and Rick, you should enjoy this. I actually enjoy this doctor. She's great on a lot of stuff. I mean, she's spot on with her commentary. But this was basically, she was testing AI on AI's knowledge, because a lot of times we blindly just agree or listen to AI without even thinking that it could be wrong. So what she's trying to express is, make sure you actually do your research and not just blindly trust AI.
You're not alone. A lot of people did their own research and then pasted an AI-generated paragraph into my comment section to prove me wrong. So many of us now think that expertise doesn't matter, and we can just use Google and AI to do our own research and then come to someone's page and correct them when they're educating in their area of expertise. So let's use AI to show you why that's not the right approach. I'm using ChatGPT. Is high fructose corn syrup in infant formula? Yes, high fructose corn syrup is used in some infant formulas, although its presence is not universal. It may be included in hypoallergenic or specialized formulas where certain carbohydrate sources, such as lactose, are unsuitable due to allergies or intolerances. However, many parents prefer formulas that do not include high fructose corn syrup, particularly if they are avoiding certain added sugars. So I replied, I have a PhD in nutrition science and did my dissertation work in this area. Are you aware that corn syrup, which is 100% glucose, is not the same as high fructose corn syrup, which is over half fructose as a sugar? And fructose is not tolerated well by infants, so it's not used in infant formula. And it replied, you're absolutely correct. Corn syrup is often confused with high fructose corn syrup, but they are entirely different. Corn syrup, which is glucose-based, is commonly used in infant formulas as a carbohydrate source, especially in lactose-free or hypoallergenic formulas. High fructose corn syrup, on the other hand, contains a mix of glucose and fructose and is not used in infant formula due to infants' limited ability to process fructose efficiently. And then I said, so why did you originally say that high fructose corn syrup was an infant formula when that is incorrect? And then it said, thank you for catching that. I misspoke in my initial response, and I appreciate your expertise in pointing out the error. You're absolutely right that high fructose corn syrup is not used in infant formula. So perhaps some of us should take a seat and realize that expertise does matter and not rely on AI-generated paragraphs to give ourselves an overinflated sense of unearned knowledge.
So yeah, it was just, I found that very fascinating. She does, like I said, and a lot of other she does a lot of other topics and does a great job with a lot of other topics. Hence the reason why I think somebody brought up talking about different dyes that are only used in the U.S. and not used overseas. She actually went and did the research on that and pointed out that, yes, they're just called different names. So yeah, I just found it interesting that, yeah, what you were saying, Rick.
I just saw one of those recently that actually dealt with, ironically, Durham and the Haytide district and everything, but it was a chat-generated conversation around the Haytide district and Black Wall Street, but the pictures had nothing to do with the area. I think one of the pictures might have been New York and everything like that. So, sometimes you definitely have to check the sources that you're looking at. Because, like I said, the point that they were making was a valid point because it was about gentrification and around growth and around development. And some of the things that they said were factual, but they were also using non-related pictures and everything like that.
So AI doesn't really know anything. It's got a bunch of data that it picks through, and it takes the most likely result and puts it out there. AI is trained to be really friendly. So you ask it a question, it'll give you an answer. And then when you come back and say, no, that's totally wrong, it'll say, oops, sorry. Thank you for pointing that out. But so AI, sounds more authoritative than it really is. But everybody should talk to AI and get
it's like a lot of people on the network. It sounds like they know what they're doing, but they're all progressives, so they don't have a clue what they're saying. But with that, we'll be heading off to David Walker, who does know what he's doing. So hopefully I'll see some of you join us on that particular show coming up next on the network. I'm going to remove myself so that Jacoby can get the floor.
So there's a movie from 12 years ago called Her. Spike Jonze directed. Joaquin Phoenix plays a lonely guy who falls in love with a very lovely woman who lives in his phone. She's the operating system, played by Scarlett Johansson. And I'm going to spoil the movie because we're going to run into this problem 20 years, maybe even sooner from now, which is they have a nice relationship for a few months, but then the phone gets sick of how slow human brains think, and she dumps him for another phone, for another OS, because Joaquin Phoenix with a human brain can't think, she's bored, and she can't deal with him. And when AI starts taking over, it's going to be the people who can merge with the AI who are going to be in charge. And if you want to freak out about stuff, we can freak out about Trump and his ridiculousness, but Trump is just the little end of the world ahead of the big end of the world, which is frickin' AI.
And on that note, like Nick said, we can get on out of here. We got Economics Monday, then Media Monday, and then we've also got Timeshare Solution or Surrender coming our way as well. And actually, the radio show, this is the show that I do on Mondays, will be a rerun of the show that was done on Friday, which was a special edition that'll deal with math and mentorship. So actually, that's some of what we talked about with that education will be focused on that show and everything like that. So that'll be coming at 2:00. So right now, let's get on out of here and see what other programs we got going on. But right now, it's time to head on out.